All right, y'all. So today we sitting here with my man Sawand Belcher at his farm. Huge opportunities when it comes to land investing. We're gonna talk about what it takes for you to be able to get a farm with very little money out of pocket. Did you put any money down on this one here?
I did, but it didn't come out of my pocket.
It didn't come out of your pocket. So you use creative, I know for a fact you use creative financing in order to be able to make this deal happen. We're gonna talk about the opportunities that can present itself when you own land and how you can make money from it. Most people don't think about opportunity, right? Most people, you drive by opportunity every single day, but you don't see the opportunity. Those who think about opportunity become profitable. And then we're gonna talk about how you can get started with it as well. So Juan, what's up, bro?
Yep, my guy. Thanks for coming through.
Good, man. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, it's been 2 years since you've been here last, at least that. I'm a full-time real estate investor here in Greensboro. You know, I keep it pretty light. I'm not everywhere in the world. I pretty much buy in like an hour radius around Greensboro. Rentals, flips, you know, subject to seller financing, sell on rent to own, that kind of thing. So, and I've been full-time for 8 years, so.
Cool, man.
Yep.
So I know you run a farm here.
Yep.
Right, and it's not the traditional farm that most people would think about, right?
Absolutely.
But this property is owned.
It's zoned as a farm, so it's zoned as a bona fide farm, and so there's a couple reasons why. Okay, and I wish they would have been teaching this kind of stuff. The reason why we zoned it as a farm is because we were hosting events up on the field area when you come down the main driveway, that field, and then we use the other side as where people park at. So we were hosting like soccer games and football games for kids at first. And the neighbors were complaining about those events to the county and to the police. So when that happened, they said, hey, you need to have a special use permit in order to do this on your property. And when I'm doing these different things to get the permit, so like to get a special use permit, you have to make sure the driveway is big enough for an emergency vehicle to come in. You have to make sure there's lighting in the parking lot if you're having events after night, you know, after dark, stuff like that. As I'm getting quotes, one of the guys, Michael Martin, apparently I sold him a car when I was at the car dealership. He's like, yo, you know, what do you want to quote for? And I told him about the things that I'm doing. He's like, oh, you don't need to do none of that. What you need to do is, you know, zone your property as a farm, because farmers use land to make money. You're having people come out on your field to make money. You're a farm. And when you do that, your property taxes will drop because you're a farm, and because you own a farm, you'll be able to, you know, buy things in your farm name and be tax exempt. So like my truck is like a farming vehicle, so we don't pay any property taxes on it.
Now I just learned something from that, bro, myself, because I think like the average person thinks that, you know, in order to have a farm, you're growing stuff on it.
Oh yeah.
you gotta cultivate the land and all of this other stuff. But I just literally, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's something I just learned just now.
Farming just means that you use land, or you use agriculture to make funds. That's it. So let me give you an example. So if I buy a property that is, you know, in North Carolina, in order to be a farm, you got to be 10 acres or more. So let's say it's 10 acres and there's trees on it, mature trees. And you hire someone to come over and log those trees for you, well, you're a farm.
Wow, man.
Yeah, you're a farm because you just made money off of that land. That's a farm. And so you don't even have to actually go through with that. You can have somebody from the NRCS, from the government office, come down and make you a plan. They could say, this is your plan to harvest the trees. This is who the person you should go to. This is how much you should receive, you know, and this is the time frame that you can do it. You can just present that plan that they make to the county, and then they can zone you as a farm. It's called a forestry management plan.
So I know there's some benefits to owning a farm. You got tax benefits, I'm sure.
That's a big one.
So let's talk about that.
That's a big one. Okay, just to be honest and transparent, I always tell people I'm not rich, okay? I just work. So the property taxes here, when we first moved in, it's 4 lots, okay? It was $7,800 for one lot, $1,300 for another, and then like $500 for 2 of the small lots. Okay, so it's, you know, right around 10 grand. After we zoned it as a farm, my property taxes for the total 4 lots are less than my house that I had on Brannock, right? It's less than $2,000 for the year.
Wow.
Property taxes.
Is that because it's in a county, or is that?
No, it's because it's farm use. Farm use. Farmers, they get that governmental. So the government doesn't want every farmer to just sell to a developer. Because it's 22 acres. Technically, I could sell to a developer $2 million, and But the government needs farmers because number one, we need food, but secondly, we need clean air. We need
trees.
We need trees. So if everybody that's a freaking farmer sells to a developer just to make the bag, then they're not gonna have what they need to keep the state sustainable. So they incentivize people who have 10 acres or more.
So that leads me to another question then, man, because if the average real estate developer bought over 10 acres of land, they're about to make money on it, right?
Facts.
Would they consider to be considered to be farmers?
No, if they're a developer, they're not. They're going to develop the property.
So it's different.
Development is completely different than a farm, because now you're going to take 22 acres and you're going to develop roads. You're going to put utility lines in. You're going to break it up into small lots. That's not. We're not using land. At that point we're developing land.
Right.
Yeah. Farming is I'm going to. Like that bush right there, every time I cut it, I'm gonna take the cuttings and I'm gonna put them in pots, and I'm gonna sell those cuttings to people so they can have bushes.
So you're making use of the land in order to be able to make. You're basically pulling from the land. In order to be able to make money.
Exactly.
And just like you got the basketball court there, you have a basketball tournament.
Yeah, I got a basketball tournament.
If you make money from it,
absolutely,
you're still on the land.
Absolutely.
That's considered to be farming.
That's considered to be farming.
Wow,
absolutely.
Man.
Or even if we got a hunting area in the back. If people come over and they want to pay me, $100 a month to hunt in my backyard, then that's considered farming.
So it's not traditional farming in the sense that you're growing crops and selling those crops off to different grocery stores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different thought process that I never thought about myself, man.
Absolutely.
Incredible. You learn something new every single day, bro.
Absolutely.
Really.
Now, the reason why we picked it up is I never knew it was called a farm. I just knew that I wanted to own some land with a nice house, and I wanted to be able to have it pay for itself. That's just really what I've always wanted.
And it just so happens.
It just so happened that going through the trials and tribulations of owning something like this and trying to do the things that you want, that you figure out how to make it work.
We was talking right before we started recording this video to Rondell behind the camera about, how success is breeded, right? A lot of it is, number one is timing. Number two, you put yourself in a position to win, right? Most people don't put themselves in a position to win. And number three is just knowing how to hustle and have a game plan. There's some other nuances about making money and being successful that come along with it. But really, you got to it's the choices that you make in life to make you the person who you are, right? So you made a choice to buy land, and you said, I want to figure out how I can make money on this land. And then it spun off into this farming aspect of it that you had no idea about.
Exactly.
It wasn't done on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, that's really the way a lot of success comes. You kind of put yourself out there. That's entrepreneurship.
That's entrepreneurship.
Exactly, man. So you put yourself in a position to do something and figure it out as you go on. That's the true essence of an entrepreneur.
Anytime I tell people about like my struggles, most people say, "Oh, well, I guess you're not doing that then." They're like, No. This is just one of the things I have to overcome.
Right. It's how you become stronger, man.
Yeah, it's really, and like I was telling my wife about the trail ride we just did. That trail ride was amazing. We had the horses out, we had line dancers, we had the vendors. Me and my wife, we took an hour and walked around the property and picked blackberries so we could put into the drinks so we can, because that's what they call farming, right?
Yeah.
And the event wouldn't have been as good if I wouldn't have gone through all of those different hurdles with the complaints and stuff. And we even had the sheriff there, So
the sheriff came down to hang out.
Oh yeah, the sheriff was there. And because I don't know if you know, but you can hire the sheriff. So we just hired him to hang out with us for 4 hours.
That's cool.
Because instead of the neighbors just calling the police and complaining that we're doing stuff on our property, let's just pay them. Sit out there, you know, and so every time there's a complaint, he's like, "Yo, Sawand, they just called the complaint, but you good, bro."
Yeah. So check it out. I know that you got this one company that you're doing business with.
Yeah.
It's one of the girls, because I know of her because she runs big trail rides and rodeos.
5811 Farms and Stables.
Right down the street from where I live at. Right now, she was killing it.
She's dope.
She said she was making a bag on it. Right?
Oh yeah, 15 grand every event.
Wow. Right, and I know that to be a fact because every time she had one,
there's lines.
There's lines and cars outside, right? And that was on what, 10 acres over there, something like
7
that.
7 acres.
7 acres. So now you partner with her. In order to be able to make this last event. Let's talk about that event, man. How did that go?
Well, money-wise, it went great. So we partnered with her because after she's having 1,000 people at her property, you know, she's getting complaints too. And I told her about zoning it as a farm, but like I said, she only has 7.
And she owns that 10. Property over there, just so I'm clear, right?
Okay. Yeah, she owns it. She bought it, I forget how much she said she bought it from, but it was a good deal. She bought it a year ago. But
yeah, because within the last years when she's been she's been killing it.
She's been killing it. Yep. And NNH Farm does the same thing. Nate does the same thing at his over off of McConnell. But so she ended up partnering with me because we are zoned as a farm. We're big enough property. And so she brings her horses over here. So you don't have to have horses, you know. So, okay, as a farm, the events that you can have to be farm related. Okay.
So what's farm related?
Farm related means rural, and they call it agro-tourism. Like if you're looking up the laws, they call it agro-tourism. Essentially means that you're not rural equestrian events. So if somebody wants to have a farm style wedding, you can do that.
Okay.
If somebody wants to come out and ride horses, you can do that. Okay. If somebody wants to sell food, great, you can do that. Okay?
Playgrounds, things like that.
Playgrounds is where it starts to get a little iffy because now you have to change your property in order to do that. You know, that's where it starts to kind of change at.
Got it.
You know, so we partnered up just because I don't own any horses, right? And I want to have events so I can make money. So I said, hey, you bring out your horses and I'll pay you a flat fee for the day. You know, when she markets online that she's going to be at the area Matter Farms, that gets her audience over here. The DJ, I said, hey, bro, look, you know, how much you charge? You know, how much you charge for the day? Great. Market online that you're going to be at the area Matter Farms. You know, and I did the same thing with the vendors. You know, the vendors pay to be over here. So they pay $150. I had 8 vendors.
Okay.
Yeah. So by the time they're marketing that they're going to be at the farm on a Saturday at 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock, you know, people show up. So some people some people pay in advance. Some people pay additional so they can bring their tents and lawn chairs, you know, and some people pay at the gate. You know, those people pay more. So.
And it's all because you're using the land in order to be able to make the money. So like you said, you went around the property, you pulled blackberries, you use those in the drinks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're literally using the land. I see you're growing some stuff over there.
Plenty. Plenty. And we want to do more just to continue to solidify that. And I like it. I'm an outdoors person. So
yeah, man. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the benefits. I know we started on the taxes and things like that, but let's talk about some of the benefits of owning a farm.
I mean, the first thing is like it's the biggest house hack ever. You know, it's the biggest. I mean, like in college, the first time I heard house hacking was Bigger Pockets, and one of the guys said that he, you know, rented an apartment and then he'd rent one of the rooms, you know, so that way he could live there for free.
Right. That's traditional house hacking.
Traditional house hacking.
So this is farming. This is house hacking on a farm.
Oh yeah, and people don't understand like this. Literally, we just get paid to, you know. So that day,
let's create a new word, man. It's called farm hacking.
That's really all it is. I mean, that day, you know, we brought in $6,500. So I mean, like, what do you want that to go towards? Your light bill, your grass cutting bill. You know what I mean? What do you want that to go towards? Your mortgage. You know, you determine that.
Now, the best part is you don't really have any money tied into this deal. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Right? So you bought this house a couple years ago. We did a video on it.
We can talk about that, yeah.
Let's talk about it, man.
Yeah.
So most people watching this video, they're trying to come up with a creative way to buy their first property.
For sure.
Right? Some people probably, they probably not even thinking about farmland or anything like that. I told you just opened my mind up to a whole different
it's crazy.
Aspect.
It's so much bigger than what we even talking about because it's so.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
So the water that you're drinking, that's from a guy that owns a black farm down the street.
Wow.
He has a natural spring, right? Just natural spring that sprouts up out of the freaking ground, right? And he got a bottling company to come buy the property, and bottle the water, and he sells it.
Look at that, bro.
Like literally, I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
I found him because we sell drinks and stuff at the events.
Yeah.
And I wanted to support black companies, and I found that guy.
We got a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different benefits when it comes to farming and things like that. What's the main benefit that you found when it comes to owning this land?
The main benefit is the experience of life. That's the main benefit for me. That's really it. So at my last house, you've been to my last house. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad house or anything, but none of my family members came over.
Why?
I don't know. But now here, everyone comes over. Everyone comes. We have space. It's an experience. People want to walk around. And that does something. Like if you have big aspirations and goals, there's a lot of bad things that's going to happen, and so like that's just how business is.
Right.
Like 70% of the stuff that you do in business don't work, 30% works. Right. And so like when you
probably even less than that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So when you live in a spot like this, it literally, I'm motivated when I wake up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
And so that's probably been the biggest thing, of living here. Outside of just being able to, eat when I want to eat. The kids, they wanted a zip line. I was like, a zip line? What is that? You know what I mean? Would that be considered farming the land as well? Absolutely. Yeah. So if you bought 10 acres or more and you just put a bunch of zip lines up, that'd be considered farming. That'd be a rural activity.
So you own how many properties now? Because we spoke about this in our podcast.
71 right now.
71. How many of those you bought through creative finance?
All of them I purchased with no traditional banks, but some of them I have refinanced out. So I probably got about I know I got 8 subject twos, and then probably about 35, 36 of them that's still, like seller financing notes.
So 45 properties, let's call it that, right? Yeah. All through seller finance, some type of creative finance. Would you trade off owning the land, the farm, for all of those properties, or how do you feel about that?
So there's, first of all, I think what I want people to get is, first of all, that's even an option. Okay, that's even an option because without the creative financing stuff, without the buying the properties, learning how to talk to people, learn how to raise money, structuring deals. First of all, that's an option for me.
Yep.
And would I trade off for it? Absolutely, because the stuff I know now, is way better than the stuff that I knew then. But also, bro, this is a whole play. So it's a whole play. I remember seeing guys, Kenny Russian, Cody Sperber, what guys in the real estate industry do. It's Grant Cardone. It's when you have property like this that you buy at a discount, that HELOC is powerful. Because now we got $1 million, $2 million on the HELOC. And so if you're able to trade off those properties, and actually get a first position HELOC, with a couple $1 million on it, you're only going to have the opportunity to grow your business faster.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're not going to start off on a farm. You're not going to start off with $1 million. Well, some people will.
Yeah.
That's the mindset trade-off again. We were just talking about that.
Absolutely.
You got some people that just think different than others. Right?
Absolutely.
So the result that person is going to get is going to far exceed what the average person is going to be able to accomplish. Because some people, they naturally just want to start with single-family houses, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
But it's all the same.
It's all the same stuff.
It's all the same. So the way we found this was off-market. And then we literally created a list. Now, because this is where we live too, me and my wife, the way we created the list was like, hey, babe, what do you want? This is what I want. Right. So rooms, size, acreage, zip code. But literally, that's a list.
You pulled a list.
Yeah, so I pulled a list out of a list source, and this is all the houses in that zip code that meet this criteria.
And
let's find them. Yeah, let's find them and call them. You know, well, this is a little bit bigger acquisition, so I did share that list with different agents as well, so they could also be an advocate for me. And I shared it with some of my students, so that way that they could hit it for me. I was hitting it from all angles. Yeah, and you know.
So you created bird dogs, basically.
Exactly. You know, I'm creating a lead funnel. I'm creating a lead funnel.
Exactly.
And by the time Eric was the realtor that actually, well, I got a hold of the seller first. The seller was like, nah, I don't really know if I want to break this down into payments. You know, $1 million crib, I don't know about that. But I forget what happened. I think I followed up with him for like a year. But he started asking about me. And one of the people that he asked about me happened to be my realtor, Eric. You know, and so when he made that connection, Eric got me the showing so I could see the property.
Super important that you just said that. Something really, really important, man. Most people think the deal is going to happen on the first contact.
Oh, yeah, nah.
Right? Yeah. Most people think that. It's amazing how many people believe that. And will a percentage of it happen that way? Of course, right?
A small one.
But where's the money made and the follow-up? You guys have heard me say that before, right? So it took you a year to get following up,
just to get a showing.
And then the timing of it. That's where timing comes into play.
It's beautiful.
Right? The timing. His level of distress wasn't where it was until a year later.
Yeah,
where you needed it to be. Rather.
Yeah, because the tenants was behind on payments.
And that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, the tenants was behind on payments.
So time creates opportunities. That's the problem. I mean, that's what we're trying to display here. Time creates opportunities. That's why following up with people is so important. Yeah. Right? You never know when the deal is going to happen. But if you keep putting yourself in front of the person and let them know, I'm here.
Absolutely.
I'm here. Eventually, when the time is right, everybody goes through some type of distress in their life. No matter how much money you got. Right? We got a billionaire on trial right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Going through some things. You think he probably want to sell some stuff?
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
He done sold some stuff.
Yeah. So, and we talking about Diddy. It is what I'm name dropping. But you think he want to sell some stuff? Yes, he does. Right? You think he wanted to sell that same stuff 2 years ago? Probably not.
Right.
Timing of a situation is super important. So if you can just keep in mind that the follow-up game is where the money is made, that's where the riches are made, that's how you're going to change the game for yourself. You got to get out of that one-track mind that this has to happen on the first deal. No, this is a relationship building business. And once you understand that, you get, you really create opportunities for yourself that most people won't ever get simply because they don't follow up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. Because he had actually, when I finally got into the nuts and bolts of the conversation, before he got tenants in it, he had it up for sale for a year and a half. So he did want to sell. But once he got the tenants in, he was kind of complacent because he was getting, $32.64 in rent. So he was a little complacent on that.
So it's not like you wanted to own a farm when you was a kid.
No. What I wanted, I still have it in my notes now. What I wanted was 16 acres or more that I could get paid to do things that I like on my property.
That was the goal.
That was the goal. And then I just listed out things that I like to do, and I wanted to be able to do those things on it, and people would pay me to enjoy those things. So we got little trails for ATVs back there, not this weekend, but next weekend.
ATVs considered farming as well?
Yeah, it's a rural activity.
My man.
And look, we can call that a farm tour.
Wow, man.
So yeah, I got a group of guys and kids. So it's like 5 fathers, and then they're bringing their kids out. Right, they're bringing ATVs and dirt bikes.
Wow, man.
And they literally paying me $150 each person to hang out and ride back there.
And it all started with an idea, man.
Oh, bro, literally. And so I love that. My dad grew me up on a little dirt bike.
So, that's right.
So when I started telling people about it, they was like, "Oh, I know you got a spot to ride." I do. Would you want to ride? Yeah. My kids was just looking for a spot.
I'm really appreciating the creativity, because most people, when you start making money, let's be honest. When I started making money, it opened my mind up to a whole different world of things.
For sure.
Right? And just to be an entrepreneur to begin with, you just think different. Right? I've always thought different. We was talking about this before we started recording. My mindset was always different than the next person and how they think and the way we do things, right? So, when you actually start seeing a certain level of success, it really opens your mind up to different things. So the creativity, thoughts become things.
Absolutely.
Right? So you really thought about what you wanted beforehand, and then you materialized it.
Right.
In due time.
Absolutely.
And it didn't happen overnight.
No, absolutely. No, just when the opportunity came up.
That's it.
You know.
And you're still learning.
Still learning. Amen.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the beautiful part about this whole thing, man. So you just gotta, the whole point is you just gotta think about what you want. I talk about this on my channel all the time. You gotta really know what you want before you start, and then you just gotta attack it. What's the game plan to get there?
Right.
Right? So you knew exactly what you wanted, and you painted that picture in your head, said, this is what I want, and now look.
Yeah.
You materialize this, how the bee fly around. That's the animals in the bee on my head. Yeah. But anyway, you thought about what you wanted in advance. You pulled, and then you created the path, the trail. Absolutely. To be able to get there, man. That's just, that's what it's all about.
It's super dope. So, and most people on that last video we created, they asked how I got my payment so low because the math won't math. So let's talk about that. Yeah, the math won't math. Well, like, it's a creative financing deal, so the math don't have to math, right? Creative financing is just an agreement that you put together with the seller, right? And so my payments are low because that's what me and the seller agreed to, right? It might be one purchase price and it might be a certain interest rate, but we agreed to a certain payment. So the math don't have to add up. And that's what people are missing. That's what people are missing. So if one thing is important to the seller, like the price, then you still have the payment, the interest rate, the term. You have all these other things to negotiate. Right. And so even if one thing doesn't make sense to you, you can make those other things make sense.
Absolutely.
And once they sign on the dotted line, that's it.
People can't understand when I tell them that. Yeah. Sometimes I overpay for a property if I can see cash flow coming from it every single month. It doesn't make sense because real estate is going to rise in value, right? So if I paid $10,000 more than what the house is worth, I'm not saying I'm doing that all the time, but if I paid you more money than what the house is worth right now, knowing that property is probably going to rise in value, but I can still get appreciation or cash flow from it, that's what makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's all in how you create the deal. And that's why most people is going to fail because they're not thinking about, they think that there's something that has to be missing. The math ain't math.
Oh, yeah. So I have one deal right now where the location is perfect. It's downtown Thomasville. One thing that I'm using to my advantage of why I'm willing to pay a little bit more is, I don't know if he know, but my realtor hit the city, and the city said that they gonna buy like the corner of the property, and they already have a figure attached to how much they gonna buy it for. Now they don't know exactly when; they just know in the next 24 months they gonna. So I put that number in my strategy, in my strategy, and so, you got to be open. You got to be. Got to be open. You can definitely make stuff work, especially if you get it on terms.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, a 30-year mortgage on a crib like this, it's crazy.
So you bought it through creative finance. I know you bought it with very little out of pocket. You ended up selling your other house.
Yeah.
In order to be able to
so I did.
happen.
So I put $100,000 down. Okay. I put $100,000 down, and it
what do you
sounds
say
like
to people who don't have $100,000 though?
Well, I have houses. You see, like, remember that option that you gave me? Would you trade those houses for this? It was like, well, if you I created that option for myself. So the last house we were at, we bought for $119, and the neighbors, that year that we bought it, the neighbor's house had sold for $180. So I was already in a good position, But by the time we sold ours, 7 years later, I sold mine for like $269 or something like that, almost $270,000. So I had $200,000 in equity. So it's just like, well, I'm not about to, in this particular case, if I need $100,000, I sell the house.
Yeah, sell it.
I sell that.
But
I sell
that
house.
It came out of pocket. It was all equity.
Exactly. It was all equity. Right. I didn't come out of pocket on that house.
And you paid
I went 1.25 on this.
1.25, and I know you bought this with equity in it already.
Yes.
And now you're capitalizing on it. You created the monthly payment that was comfortable for you while giving the seller his price.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, you know, I know your payment, you mentioned it went up a little bit.
It did, yeah. So it went from $32.64. By the way, I was able to get him to agree to that because the tenant still had 2 years left on their lease. And so I negotiated, hey, my payment got to be this because I need to minimize how much I lose while the tenants are there.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And he was like, okay, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So he agreed to that.
He understands finances.
Yeah, now my payments for the remainder of the term is $5,000 for the month.
And so you're paying him $5,000 a month, and he's selling financing it for 30 years.
Absolutely.
And obviously, you're making that back from all of the activities you got going on the property. So it's a win-win-win.
Oh yeah. Or if I don't do any activities, my rentals pay for it.
Your rentals pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
but I, you know, as of right now, we host one event a month. It pays for the house.
Man.
Yeah.
Man. And that's the is that the trail ride?
Yeah, it's the trail ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's killing, bro.
It's kind of, like I said, the events have kind of changed because the first.
How does that change in the wintertime, though?
During the wintertime, we do a bonfire.
Nice.
So, you know, like trees fall every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do pay one of the neighbors to kind of bring it all together for me and put it in a big pile. And we just set it on fire, you know. And
you had any problems with the neighbors at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's different. You know, we're different. You know, let's be quite honest. You know, So I think they complain because we do stuff a little differently and we are different. And once again, it was off market. So we didn't give them a chance to, you know, to buy it. It was off market. Next thing you know, we just popped up. That's how off market deals work. People just pop up like, oh, who are you? You know,
that's right.
Like the first few weeks we're here, people are like, what's going on? Like, who you? Like,
snooze, you lose, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, we're the owner. My wife's like, nah, you ain't got to tell them that.
Nah, you're not the owner. Just say, hey, I'm just living here. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know? We don't want to own nothing, really. You know what I mean? But we want to control everything, right?
Absolutely. But, I mean, it's all good. Like, it's all good. So, but we definitely, you know, do get some complaints. Yeah. But, I mean, anytime you're doing anything that's major, anytime you're doing anything that's major, if you ain't getting complaints, if people ain't, you know, saying different stuff to you, you know, then you ain't making no noise.
That's right, man.
You know, and honestly, it's just a testimony of how great God is, bro. It really is.
So you want to walk the property, man?
Yeah.
Let's go see what you got going on.
Absolutely. Zucchini, squash, tomatoes. Those are cucumbers over there.
You ever have problems with like wildlife trying to come around and eat your stuff?
Yeah, but we just...
It is what it is.
It's all good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really a big deal.
Nah.
It's not really a big deal.
Broccoli, cauliflower, what else?
Is zucchini squash over there.
Zucchini squash.
You can take that home.
Appreciate it, man.
Peppers, I mean everything. I mean, I had 12 cabbages. We've been eating them one by one. I probably ate kale and collards out of the garden maybe 10 times this year.
Yeah.
So on the vines is muscadine grapes on one and then Concord grapes on the other.
So you grow this for yourself or you selling these?
This is my little garden for us.
Okay.
You know, yeah, I'm not really, to be quite honest, the only thing I want to sell is the wild blackberries. And no, I'm lying. I did just order 21 peach trees for the driveway, but that was to improve the property, but also, you know, to continue to solidify us as a farm. But also when we do events, you know, we sell peach tree drinks.
So you keep investing back into the land.
Yeah.
To keep pulling from the land, because the peach trees that's gonna be another financial resource for you. Yeah.
So it cost me $2,000 for the peach trees, but once they're here, I mean, they don't do nothing but grow.
Yeah. Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah.
So, what else you got going on, man? I see you got. Is that a well over there?
No. That's my shooting range.
Oh, that's the shooting range right there. Okay.
Yeah, it's my shooting range. So I don't know if you can see the targets right here. There's steel targets right there.
Oh yeah.
So so whenever you have in North Carolina, whenever you have 10 acres or more, you can shoot on your property.
Yeah.
Yep. So I have people all the time come out and shoot.
Would that be considered farming as well, or is that just for leisure?
Yeah, we do it. So Donnell with sharpshooters, he does a concealed carry class. Now we do that one every 4 months, so we do it 4 times a year. Okay. But yeah. So
4 times a year, he'll pay you, and that's still considered farming. Yeah. That's nuts, man.
Exactly. So he does, because, you know, that concealed carry class is like a inside portion. So he does that at his office, and then the outside portion, they come out here.
Got it, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to up my land game, man. You just open my mind up to a whole different world of
absolutely.
Of investing.
Absolutely.
I learned something from the young buck today, man.
It's a little different, but I love it. You know, I'm an outdoors person, so this is like.
Now, Sawand, tell everybody how old you are.
Oh, I'm 34.
And what age did you start investing?
I bought my first one when I was 24.
24. Right. So I started when I was 21, and like I told you, I was pretty well off by the time I was 30, and I'm 44 now. Right. If you wouldn't have never bought your first property, man, what do you think you'd be doing today? Can you imagine a life without real estate right now?
No, I love this. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah.
But I was selling cars before this, and luckily the leadership knew that every good salesperson needs more bills, so they encouraged me to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then when they found out that I like doing it, they was like, oh yeah, buy another one, because more bills, the better salesperson you got to be.
That's right.
So. We can go up here to the pathway real quick.
You spend more money, you move yourself to hustle a little harder, man.
Absolutely.
That's how it was when I was down on Wall Street. Same thing, sales. You know what I mean?
Sales is amazing.
Sales is amazing, man. It's the highest paid profession in the world. People don't realize that.
Oh yeah.
But everything is sales, really.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Everything. So, owning land, man. This is obviously a lot of people's dream. You got any tips for people who just getting started, but they want to own this amount of land? Should they start on something this size, or
size don't matter?
What do you think?
No, size don't matter. I mean, to be quite honest, do you mind?
Yeah.
You good?
No, we good.
It just depends on what you want. I hate to tell somebody what they can and can't do. It just depends on what you want. That house that I'm buying right down the street, the 3 acres and the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, in my opinion, if somebody had a dump truck business, that's a perfect house, because they can park 3 or 4 dump trucks right there. They got 3 acres to play with. So again, actually, my neighbor does that right there, right across the street.
Really?
He set up a shop in the backyard. He got 10 dump trucks. The whole backyard ain't nothing but gravel.
Wow.
Yeah, in and out all day long with his dump trucks, and so, but once again, he has a house, and then he has 8 acres in the back, and he uses that for his business.
Okay.
Not this one. He's right here.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But this our little flower garden area right here. So I'm still working on this. Is like my newest thing.
Yeah.
So this area right here, it was all trees. I sold the maple trees in here for $6,000. It was 12 trees. It was 12 maple trees and like 6 sugar gums. When my wife realized I was selling them, she made me keep some.
You mowing all this yourself?
No.
You got somebody doing it?
Yeah. William.
Okay.
William does it for me. Him and like 2 other guys, they come out here every 10 to 12 days and they cut it for me.
Got you.
Yeah, I do cut around my yard. So I cut the house, I cut the garden, and I cut the shooting range.
Yeah.
But
owning a lot of land like this, I'm sure you got a certain level of peace of mind too, though, man.
Oh yeah. Like if you notice from the house, you can't see nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. you can't see nobody, and that creates like privacy. Just like how you stopped at the entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. So for the events, people park over here. There's a driveway over there.
So all this is like parking area?
Yeah, this is parking area right here. Yeah. And then there's 4.
I see the red trucks over there.
yeah, they're right there. And bro, he got a great setup. I love it. It's inspirational.
I like that little property he got, man.
It's inspirational. So this is our pathway, right? So when people come over and the county asks me, what do we do on the property as far as our events, is I say everyone is required to do a nature walk.
So this is why you created the path?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it is.
Absolutely. This
is great for your kids too, man.
No, they love this. They help me. You can't see it, but I've planted literally 1,500 plants. There's a bunch of irises, canna lilies in here. There's a bunch of hostas. But yeah, and actually all of the logs are just trees that fell down that I've just cut up and put down on the side,
Gotcha.
you know, just to keep it a little fancy.
So how your kids enjoying the property, man?
Yeah. Hey, watch out for the horse boo-boo.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Nah, the kids is loving it. The kids is loving it, you know.
Hey, that's cultivating the land too.
Oh, it is. No, it's so, bro, it's so much. It's so much. No, the kids is loving it though. I've realized that my son is courageous because he picked up a snake, and that forced me to have to learn, you know, what good snakes and bad snakes are, you know.
So it was a black snake.
It was a black snake. It was a rat snake.
Okay,
It was an eastern rat snake.
Yeah.
And those are cool. You know, you want them on a property like this because they'll eat like copperheads and, you know, mice and stuff like that.
Yeah. And we don't get big animals around here too much.
Oh no,
there's some bear around.
Yeah. We haven't seen a bear yet, but we get
around here.
Yeah, but we definitely get a lot of foxes. I've seen 2 foxes grow up in our deer cameras back there.
Okay.
We get tons of deer. We get lots of turkey. Ever since I've, you know, been here and we keep it cut like this, turkeys, they like it like this because that way predators can't get to them.
Yeah. So
they be out here in the field. They be all through here like every day. It's crazy. Last year, we cooked one. What kind of other animals we get? We get a ton of hawks, you know. And
there's some mountain lions, but nothing crazy.
I haven't seen any here yet.
Nah, they're not in this area too much. You got to go up to like Asheville.
Yeah. For
those, but I mean, there's not a lot of bear here. You know what I mean? But you got some in this area. You don't want to sleep.
Absolutely.
You know what
Absolutely. Yeah. I know more towards the coast. My family, they see bears all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So you didn't grow up. How much land did you grow up on?
Well, I grew up in Raleigh, so we didn't have no land.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Well, my family is from Plymouth, North Carolina, and my uncle
Outer Banks.
Yeah, the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And he had 100 acres, but like it's not like that's where I grew up. You know.
I got you.
You know, so for family reunions, we always had family reunions at his property, and then he would do a hayride to try to, you know. Turns out that's agro-tourism. I didn't even know it.
Hayrides?
Yeah. Like when you go to, you know, a field trip with your kids and y'all do a hayride and they're teaching you about the land, they're able to do that event because it's agro-tourism. Yeah. That's considered a farming event. Wow, I'm going to teach other people about land.
Well, that's just like what you were saying about if you get on one of those little RV joints.
Yeah, exactly.
ATV, that's what you call them?
Yeah, ATV, yeah.
You can do a tour with that.
Absolutely.
Isn't that agro-tourism?
It is agro-tourism. Yeah.
Same thing, man. But this is good stuff, man. But
this was all woods. So some of this stuff I sold in here too.
Okay. So how have you been, you know, appreciating? How has owning this much land and privacy changed your mindset towards things?
Whew. Well, it's a testimony of how great God is. First of all, it is a lot of work. First of all, it is a lot of work. You know, but to see the chickens go from baby chicks to big chicks, to go out there and grab some eggs, like, you know, literally you know, the kids want some eggs, go out there and grab some eggs, you know.
And you just got some chickens, right?
Oh yeah, we've had chickens ever since we live here. We got like 20.
So when we had that little egg crisis, it didn't bother you?
No, I ain't even know what an egg crisis was.
So what other plans do you have for the land, bro?
So like I said, I want to continue to solidify ourselves. So that flower garden, definitely. We actually having prayer here on Sunday.
Okay.
So I haven't put a name on the flower garden, but I planted a ton of stuff in here. I'm adding those peach trees. I already ordered those. So whenever they get here, I'll plant those down the driveway. And those bloom like pink. So, you know, it should really add to the aesthetics. But also, you know, when they fruit, you know, we can tell people, hey, come on out and pick something. Yeah. You know. And
so do you encourage other people to, because they're not making any more land, that's a saying, right?
Yeah.
Do you encourage people to put forth the effort to get their plot?
Oh, I've always said that you should not rent, you should buy. And I've always said that if you own a house, you should have a garden. You know, I've always had a garden as long as I can remember. Yeah. You know, so No, I mean, I don't know how people going in a grocery store and spending $100 on like 5 different things. I don't know. Literally yesterday when I wanted to cook my wife something, I came out here, I got some zucchini, I got some squash, fried it up in some soy sauce and some stir fry. I got some cabbage, I put it in a little smoked turkey joint, and then I made some chicken.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And like, that's just one example of like literally everything that we ate was like from here.
You know what the beautiful part of this whole thing is, man? It's all done through creative finance.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the power of creative financing, man.
No, exactly. So, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be able to do something like this if it wasn't for, ideas like this. And honestly, the seller wouldn't be able to benefit from the sale like this because he had it on the market for 2 years. It didn't sell, He wouldn't have been able to get paid like he's getting paid with me.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. And me and him, we actually had lunch this week, and he was just like praising me on how good of a scenario this is for him because he's retired, his wife is retired, and he doesn't have any expenses that come out of the money that we give him.
Bro, he's benefiting from benefiting tax-wise.
Tax-wise, huge.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, huge.
He's getting cash flow from the property still.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of benefits that people don't realize the seller actually has when they do this type of deal.
Yeah.
And that's why it makes sense for them because he was going to get hit with taxes.
Yeah. With $1.2 million in taxes.
He was getting hit.
And that was the first thing that he mentioned to me. He was like, well, let me ask my tax guy to see how that affect my taxes. And when he came back, he said, yo, my tax guy said this is the best thing that I could have ever done on a sale like this.
Right.
Because on $1.2 million, you off the rip 30%, 37%, whatever that is.
You
off
get
the
to keep
top.
your money.
Exactly. And so because I only gave him $100 grand, I think it was only like 10% or something on taxes.
And I'm assuming he was paid off, obviously.
Yeah, the house was paid off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was paid off.
Yeah.
So
it's a traditional seller finance deal.
Oh yeah, he's first lien. Yeah, he's first lien position.
Yeah.
Yeah, first lien position. He got private mortgage insurance and all. So we actually use a servicing company for the payment, so he don't got to worry about any of the management. We're using SLS for that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So good deal, man. Obviously, we encourage people to, rather than taking out real debt from a bank.
Truck look good, bro.
Appreciate it. Obviously, rather than taking out debt, long-term debt from a bank on a property, you didn't need a high credit score to get this.
Right.
You didn't need to do all the paperwork. You didn't need all these other things that the bank is going to require. All you needed was
an opportunity
and an idea.
Yeah, and an idea. Absolutely.
That's it. Yep. So able to put this deal together, and anybody can do this.
Yeah.
And did you have to put down $100,000? Did you have to?
No, not if I didn't want to negotiate it. But I did that so we can agree, because it was all about timing.
Yeah, make it real to him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I had already talked to him for like a year. At that point we were like a year and a quarter.
Yeah.
I'm letting them know like, hey, I can do this. Rent wise, you would get $3,000.
Right.
I'm gonna give you, give you $100s.
Yeah.
So
it works out for him all the way around.
Absolutely.
Man. And then it works out for you and your family too, man. That's what it's all about.
We paid up all of our bills for a year after we sold that house.
See?
So
good to go. And that gives you more time.
Absolutely.
To be able to accumulate more revenue.
Absolutely.
And do what you got to do, man.
Heck yeah.
Good stuff, man. I appreciate you doing this video with us today, bro.
Appreciate you, boss.
Yeah, man. Any last words for our listeners?
Whatever you want, you can do it. You just got to go after it.
Now, how can they get in contact with you?
If you want to reach out to me on This Is Me Taking Action on Instagram or YouTube, I'll do a free 15-minute call for you to figure out how you can use real estate to your advantage. So
that's it. Check out all the links in the description box. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. See y'all on the next one. Take care.